Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing drum brakes on this 2008 Toyota Yaris, and I'm going to try to explain as much as I can along the way. All that stuff's coming up here in a second. Please stay tuned and please consider liking and subscribing. Alright, so I already got all the wheel off. First thing I want to do is pull this drum off. And since it's old and it's been there for a little while, it's not going to be easy. It's kind of stuck. Make sure you have your parking brake off when you're doing this. On the face of the drum here, you have holes. You can run a bolt in here and push the drum off of the backing plate here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to hit it with a hammer to loosen up some of the rust, and then it should come right off. This is pretty simple to do, and it won't take me very long. So I'm only going to show you guys one side of it because the other side is just the same. There we go. You can see all the dust that was in there. So what happens is, over time, as those shoes press into the drum, you create a little lip here in the drum. And sometimes that can be a little hard to get the drum off of the shoes when that lip is real big. So I'll go over some of the components here. So this here is your wheel cylinder. So the brake line comes in here and goes into the wheel cylinder, and this acts similar to the piston on the calipers. The fluid enters here and pushes these two plungers or rods, whatever you want to call them, pushes them outwards, and that in turn spreads the shoes apart like this, and then the shoes engage on the inside of that drum, and then that's what does the braking. This spring here returns the shoes back so that the shoes aren't riding on the drums while you're driving. The mechanism that spring is around is your adjuster, and it's also what there's a thing called a parking pawl, and as the brakes are applied, the star wheel gets adjusted so that the brakes are always in adjustment, or always just before contacting the drum. When we go to put this back together, we're going to have to adjust these shoes so that there's not too much distance between the shoes and the drum when we go to apply the brakes. So the thickness of the pads, obviously over time, will get smaller and smaller. So this star wheel, this rod, is extended pretty far out. So when we put the new pads on, or new shoes, we're gonna have to run that in a little bit so that the new drum will fit over. These are your shoe retaining springs. I'll show you more about those when I go to take this off. And then there's another spring down here that holds the bottom of the shoes together. So we're just going to start taking this stuff apart. Then we have new hardware here, and these are color coded. So that spring here is yellow. So the new one we're going to put in here is this guy. Yeah, we're going to take this spring off first. So this tool I actually just got from Napa. It's brake spring pliers. You can see the part number here from Napa. just makes getting these springs in and out a little bit easier. I'm going to leave that one in there. All right. So these retaining springs have this little rod here with the flat end, and then this stops at the backing plate. So it goes through the spring like this, and it slides in this little slot, and then you press it in, and then you turn it to lock it. And that's what holds the shoe to the backing plate. So we just remember what orientation everything went. Put this spring here. So this spring, so this is the lever that as the brakes are being engaged over time, this lever clicks on that star wheel like this. And as it does, it spreads this bar out to keep these brakes in adjustment. This spring brings that pawl or that lever back down. That's the force that actually pulls the lever down to turn that star wheel. So we're gonna actually separate this guy. So then we'll get a new spring. Yeah, so the new spring will go in there just like this. So we make sure we got it in the same orientation. The spring looks the same. So then we'll pull this guy off. Put this here. I'm just gonna run it in a little ways. We're gonna have these longer edges. That's what's gonna slide in right here. So that's how these are gonna go in there. And then that spring will go and connect to those two holes. But I've got to get it on to the backing plate first. And there's also a spring at the bottom here. And that just holds the two shoes together at the bottom. I want to wipe down these parts, and I'm going to actually blow some of the dust out of there with a compressor. So I'm going to pause this video for a second, and I'm going to go set up the air compressor and come back and blow this stuff out. All right, so when we're blowing out this dust and stuff with the compressor, we want to make sure that we don't blow our springs around with that compressed air and lose everything. So all the loose parts have been taken off the tire and put away, so I won't lose them. So I'm just going to blow this dust out now. And you don't want to breathe this stuff in either. So I'm just going to wipe the rest down with a paper towel. And that's as good as it needs to be. So now we're going to start reassembling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece back on here with this little clip. Then I'm going to transfer this piece and put a new spring on to this pad. This dowel right here is what that piece pivots on. And it's got to go through the slot like this. So then I'm going to take the new spring. I'm going to do it with something with a little more grip. These channel locks on here, since they can grip the spring a little bit better. All right. Here we go. So that's back on there the way it needs to be. We're going to put this spring on. Attach it to this side. And then now we're going to put there we go. So I've got this guy pretty much loaded and ready to go. Let's just cinch it down a little bit. There we go. Alright, so I reused the old clip, but after I put it around, I just kind of cinched the ends of it down so it stays on there. The other one was way too loose and wasn't cooperating. Alright, so now that's together. This is together. Let's put this on here. Leave those for there at the moment, and then put the new retainers on. There we go. Put this retainer on there as well. All right. There's an actual tool for that, like a little driver that you can push in and turn, but they're not that hard to put on. There we go. All right, so it's a little tricky, but there you go. Everything's back together. So now I'm gonna have to adjust the shoes for the new drum. So that's pretty loose. So the idea here is to spread these shoes out as far as you can without coming into contact with this drum. You don't want too much space in between the shoe and the drum, so that when you engage the brakes, they actually contact the drum. But you also don't want it rubbing either. So there's actually a tool for this as well. It's a caliper that you set to the inside of the drum that shows you exactly where to put the shoes. So how I'm adjusting this, I'm turning this star wheel right here. I'm turning it this way to spread that out. bit more. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so that was a bit quick. Let me go over this stuff again then, just so we make sure we covered everything. All right, so here, your wheel cylinder, that's what actuates the brake shoes against the drum. Fluid comes in from the brake line, spreads these plungers out, that spreads the brake shoes out, and they come in contact with the drum, and then that engages the brakes. This returns the shoes back so that the shoes don't drag on the drum. This allows for adjustment of the brakes, so it's a constant self-adjusting brake system. So as the brakes wear down over time, the brake shoes spread out, and that pawl that I showed you earlier clicks that star wheel and keeps the shoes adjusted outwards. These retain the shoes to the backing plate. This spring holds the bottom together. Your parking brake cable comes in right here, and this is the piece that the parking brake cable pulls on to engage the shoes. So when you pull this lever, you see how it pushes that shoe out, that cinches down the shoes on the drums. And then this spring is the return spring for the self-adjuster pawl. And that's it. So I'm going to put this drum on, put this wheel on, and then that'll be the end of this video. I hope you guys learned something. Feel free to ask me questions in the comment section. I'll explain it as much as I can. But that's it. Please consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.